that 58% of the people of the Western Cape would now like to see a referendum on Cape independence. So that's a very, very significant number.
As South Africa becomes more politically unstable, the idea of Cape independence is growing in popularity. But how realistic is this objective? I posed this question to Phil Craig. He is with the Cape Independence Advocacy Group, and he and I spoke in a longer conversation on my podcast, Solutions with David Ansara. What follows is a short extract from that conversation. Enjoy. Could you tell us more about your personal background and also the Cape Independence Advocacy Group? How did it come about, and what are some of its objectives?
Look, I got involved as an individual person who could see that the future for South Africa was not as rosy as it should be. We could see the storm clouds on the horizon, and we wanted to find solutions. I'd always felt that Cape independence was probably going to be a natural counterpoint to increasing African nationalism in the rest of the country. Although, funnily enough, it became apparent that wasn't really going to happen naturally, and we were always waiting for somebody else to stand up. I then got involved myself at the beginning of 2020, after having had discussions with several of the independence groups, with some like-minded people, we decided that nobody exactly represented what it was that we wanted to do. And we got together and we formed the CIAG in April 2020. That's when we launched the CIAG. What's our mission? I think probably my background is in marketing, sales and marketing, and therefore my approach to Cape Independence was very much a marketing approach. And my initial starting point is, well, look, what do we need to do to deliver Cape Independence? I felt a lot of the other groups perhaps hadn't really got that covered, and we set about saying, well, look, how do we create the conditions that are likely to bring Cape independence about? And our sort of two primary aims really were to get Cape independence established in the media, so that people were talking about Cape independence and it developed as an option. And then to influence the sort of positions of political parties and political actors towards Cape independence. They were our two primary aims. And look, obviously, we part of that was supporting the other existing groups who were pushing for Cape independence. So that really is our role to promote Cape independence as a discussion point, to influence political parties and actors, and then to support other people as best we can in their work towards Cape independence.
Enjoying this analysis? Click here to sign up for our 30-day free trial for more content from the CIA.
Okay, Phil, so the CIAG is not a political party per se, but you're a lobby group. And the objective is Cape independence. But what about the why? Simon Sinek wrote the book Start With Why. So what is your why? What is the underlying principle here? Why are you trying to achieve Cape independence?
So I think because we've got problems that aren't going to be fixed. I had the privilege of speaking at the press club earlier in the year, and the topic was what's driving support for Cape independence, and we summed it up with one sentence. That we've got a problem that Cape independence can fix when nothing else will, and I think that kind of sums it up in a one-liner. What is the issue? The people of the Western Cape have, for 30 years, the majority of voters in the Western Cape have never had the government they voted for, and they have no reasonable prospect of ever getting the government they vote for. So in terms of just democracy for the people of the Western Cape, there's a problem, and you have to have a chance of electing the government you want, and if you can't for decades upon end, then clearly there is an issue, it's not a benign issue given how poor the performance of the government that has been elected by the other provinces. So I think that's we really sort of start off with democracy. And I think we tag on to that then the ideology, and I think the Western Cape, as can be demonstrated from its voting record, clearly has different views to the rest of South Africa, and we see one set of solutions. South Africa sees a different set of solutions. I'm not sure South Africa actually sees any solutions, but it thinks it sees a different set of solutions. Therefore, if you respect democracy, you have to respect the right of the rest of the people in South Africa to elect the government they want. But we don't really feel any urge to go down with the ship. And given that we're not voting for that, and we never really have voted for that, that's Cape Independence in a nutshell. We'd love to save South Africa. We can't. It's not up to us. But actually, we want to be sure as hell. Want to make sure we save the Western Cape, where we live and where we are the voters.
Okay, so you're focusing local and trying to distance yourself from some of the more harmful policies emanating out of Pretoria. But now, Phil, what do people of the Cape think about this idea of Cape independence? Is there support for what you're doing?
Well, they're warming rapidly to the idea. So I think first of all, we've just polled. This is our second poll, and the results are very, very encouraging for us. And I think probably the two most telling statistics are that 58% of the people of the Western Cape would now like to see a referendum on Cape independence. So that's a very, very significant number. And I think that has to be taken into context with 58% want a referendum. And the DA have already announced that they're going to fix the referendum legislation. Those two things clearly aren't unrelated. The DA have come to the referendum questions as a result of political pressure within the province, because people are wanting change, and Cape independence is gaining momentum. So we've got 58% wanting a referendum on Cape independence, and at last check we've got 46.2% of registered voters in the Western Cape supporting the idea of Cape independence. So not only have we got the majority wanting a referendum, but I mean we are very, very close now to getting a majority of people to support Cape independence. So I think there's a lot of support. And what's been very, very encouraging in this second poll from our first poll is we've seen a significant growth amongst registered voters that increased from 34% to 46% in a 12-month period. And all of that growth has come amongst coloured and black voters, which is really positive, because we understand that, given South Africa's history, that there is more hesitancy, or there was more hesitancy amongst the groups that were sort of previously discriminated against. So from our point of view, that has been really, really encouraging. And across the racial groups, 65% of white voters want Cape independence. 50% of coloured voters now want Cape independence, and 22% of black voters want Cape independence.
Okay, so in terms of the methodology for this polling, Phil, because I'm sure many of our viewers will be asking about that, the sample size was about 886, is that correct? And the margin of error, was that about 4%, you said?
Correct. Yeah, I was 886 sample size and a 4% margin for error. The poll was conducted by Victory Research.
Okay, yeah, and they're a well-known polling company in South Africa. All right, Phil, so the DA has tabled this private members bill to amend the Referendums Act, and we had an episode with Richard Wilkinson on federalism, which we'll link to here, that discussed this process in more detail. So if anyone's interested, they can go and watch that. But essentially, would you see this Cape independence question being included on a referendum? Is that your ultimate objective? And how would this process play out?
Yeah, look, it definitely is our objective, and actually our expectation, if I'm honest. I think how this is going to play out. First of all, we've got the passage of bill through Parliament, and I think there are a lot of moving parts. So clearly there's a degree of speculation on my part. But first of all, I expect that the bill will pass Parliament. Clearly, the right to hold the referendum is already included in both the National and the Western Cape Constitution, and therefore Parliament will have to sort of go against the South African Constitution, which would then force a motion to the Constitutional Court, and it may delay the inevitable. So I think probably, my expectation is that the ANC will choose not to fight that battle, because I'm not sure it would be a battle that would be very beneficial to them. So I think that this legislation is going to be passed fairly quickly, and I think that's also the DA's expectation. And I think once it's been passed, the DA absolutely intends to call referendums in the Western Cape. I think what's on the question paper is up for debate, but the Referendums Act, or the Referendums Act as was, the DA's private members bill actually seeks to repeal the Referendums Act and to sort of amalgamate it into the Electoral Commissions Act. What that allows for is multiple question referendums, that and that's what I'm expecting to see, a consultation referendum, probably, let's call it that, between the people of the Western Cape and the Western Cape government. And I think that's going to include questions on a number of things, and I think Cape independence inevitably is going to be one of those. I think it would be almost impossible for the DA not to include the Cape independence question. 65% of their own voters want a referendum on Cape independence. Independence. 58% of all voters in the province want. So if you are the elected government, your name is the Democratic Alliance, and everybody wants a referendum on Cape Independence. You're going to have to make a very strong argument to say, well, hang on a second, we know better than everybody, and we're going to go our own way and ignore the democratic will of just about everybody. So I expect us to see a referendum on Cape Independence, yes, but probably not just on Cape Independence.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this conversation, you might want to check out the full conversation with Phil Craig. That is linked over here. And I'd also be grateful if you could subscribe to my other channel. That's linked over here. My name is David Ansara. This is the Center for Risk Analysis. Until next time, take care.